listening to Real Coaching Radio TV, building a positive network.
Are you in the entertainment industry? If you answered yes and you want to promote yourself, your passion, and profession, check out Creative Independent Artist magazines at CIAartists.com, endorsed by Kids Talk Foundation worldwide. Today's podcast is brought to you by Kids Talk Foundation, a global nonprofit organization providing youth advocacy, television programming, and training services in the United States, along with comprehensive medical and educational services for the developing world, most recently in Kenya, Africa, where Kids Talk Foundation provides a feeding program, medical care, and educational services to over 1,300 young people each day. Please help our youth and place your donation. Go to www.kidstalk.org.
Welcome to the Mind, Body, and Soul Show on Real Coaching Radio Network. How would you like to attempt to demystify with us the realms of the mind, body, and soul to bring you a more holistic and balanced way of living? Healthier in all realms of the psyche, the spirit, and the body. Here is your host and executive producer, Coach Steve Toth.
Welcome, everybody, to the Mind, Body, and Soul Show on this beautiful Thursday afternoon. I'm your host and the founder of Real Coaching Radio and TV Network, Coach Steve Toth, and our guest today is Lee Gerdes. He's the founder of Brain State Technologies. Welcome to the show, Lee.
Thank you. Good to be here.
I think good to have you. I believe you've been here before.
Yep.
You're becoming a regular. Fantastic. So also, I wanted to announce that we're soon going to be Conscious Evolution Media, which is launching on January 1st, 2013. And what we're going to be talking about with Lee today is very interesting. Actually, I added another subject. I'm sure you won't mind, but we're going to be talking about holiday stress and 2012, the end of 2012. A lot of people are freaked out about 12-12-12 or 12-21-12. I'm sure you're familiar with what I'm talking about.
Yes.
Which one you want to talk about first?
I'm very open, but you mentioned the advent of Conscious Evolution Network?
Media, yes.
Conscious Media Network.
Conscious Evolution Media.
Conscious Evolution Media. Interesting name.
Thank you.
When we look back at the evolutionary process, everything that we see in the evolutionary process, as it evolves, the next layer in the evolutionary process always drives or controls the layers beneath it. So when we think about that, even if we put it in context of, let's say, a car, when we think about that, we went from discovery of the wheel to a single-wheel cart to a two-wheel to a four-wheel to, a motorized to now a car, and the controlling units are brake, gas, and steering wheel, right?
Right.
The controlling units in the human have grown to be the outer layers of our brain, the cerebral cortex.
Mm-hmm.
Those control the inner workings. And we're finding that out and we're proving that. And as we're doing that and talking about consciousness, for example, it allows us to start thinking of it scientifically and measuring it.
I'm very excited about that. By the way, may I add another component to this, which is, this is something I've been talking about lately, which is this evolution. We are going to have these business verticals that we have actually renamed. We had them now for 9 years, but we didn't organize our network around those. But comes January 1st, our entire network will be organized around health and wellness evolution, also relationship evolution, financial evolution, also self-evolution, also career evolution, environmental evolution, and spiritual evolution.
I love
We
it.
believe that everything we do, the only way out of town, which is the chaos, I call the chaos
Yeah.
out of town, is
I got
through
it.
evolution. And what I wanted to share, not just with you, Lee, but the entire network, is that, and this is not a new concept, religion has been talking about this for hundreds, if not thousands of years, and some people call it, the God self, the higher self, the spirit. I call it the new self, because I believe that what evolution is all about right now is our ability to separate ourselves from our feelings and also our emotions. I am not my emotions. I am not my feelings.
Right.
Those are just objects. When we become them, we're in trouble,
Yeah.
right? I love having conversation with you, Lee, because you get everything I say, vice versa.
And not only are we in trouble when we become them, but they bloody well take over the driving of the whole.
Yes, we're no longer in control.
And we go right, and we're headed right towards major chaos when we do that. Whatever aspect of my life is driven that way, that aspect is in major chaos. So it is of paramount importance to me as a human to separate those things and to have some semblance, at least, have some semblance of control.
Yes. So what I was talking about is this new self is our ability to then witness ourselves and observe ourselves, so that we don't have to act on everything we feel and all the emotions that come up. We actually have a choice. We can manage this thing called human.
You know, in the Judeo-Christian faith, Paul wrote, I really hate the things that I sometimes do, and I really don't do some of the things I want to. And so it's no different than any of us face every day. There are certain things that we find we don't do that we want to do, and we do that we don't want to do. Heretofore, we've only understood those things as habit. Now we're starting to understand many of those things, not as a habit at all, but as a functional brain pattern. And so when we look at recent news clippings, let's say, from the Kansas City Chiefs had an outside linebacker who shot his girlfriend and then went to the practice field and shot himself recently.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Tragedy, yes. But I immediately assumed that he played on the right side of the line, so he took a lot of left frontal lobe hits, which he did.
Yeah. That's the scientific explanation. So my explanation, Lee, would be when we are not connected to ourselves and to others, when we're disconnected, the disconnected human being is capable of absolutely anything.
And my explanation to that is to say that if I don't have the power to be connected, if my brain is so dysfunctioned that I can't connect, then the truth of the matter is I can't connect.
Yes. That's beautiful.
Yeah, and you have to, but we're seeing people, lots and lots of people, who come to us wanting that. And they may have other things that arise. They may have anxiety, or they may have depression, or they may have different kinds of pathologies that they are trying to resolve. But the truth is that many, or even most of them, will say afterwards, "You didn't tell me this was going to be a spiritual journey." It's not a spiritual journey. The spiritual journey is there always, and this allows you, i.e. the balance of the brain, the functional balance of the brain, allows you to connect to it. And when you do, bottom line, what you're happier.
Yes.
Isn't that just a kick?
Yes. I mean that's not only are we happier, but in terms of connecting to who we really are and why we came to this planet and what really our passion is, just unfolds automatically.
It does unfold, and here's where I think I step aside as a scientist and yield to you and your coaching, because the unfolding requires some skills. The ability to see the unfolding requires a balanced brain.
Yes.
But it does require some skills to really grab a hold of it and move it forward, right?
Yeah. So how I feel is all these life coaches out there, and there are over 100,000 of them.
Wow.
In this country, all these coaches out there are trying to work with their clients, and they swimming upstream because the client's mind is not able to get there. Their mind is imbalanced, and it doesn't matter how hard you try to coach them, or set up whatever plans, whatever things we do as a life coach. None of that matters because the client is unable to be there.
Yeah. I didn't know that there were 100,000 life coaches, but I did know that there are 1.2 million psychotherapists.
Wow.
Okay.
Which is most of that is talk therapy, and they do it for years with clients.
Right, and most of that, in terms of a clinical trial, and a good friend to somebody in need will have about the same success rate.
Yeah.
Which is about 1 out of 3 or 1 out of 4.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
So I also wanted to mention that I wasn't surprised at all the outcome of the elections. I actually predicted it, because the majority of the people that were voting, unfortunately, are not awake and not conscious. They have not developed this new self. So, and probably safely we can say that most of everybody's brain is out of balance to some extent, right?
Yes. I mean, I don't know that our brain's ever fully in balance, but the point at hand is, can it change based on load? So based on, does it move, or is it stuck? If it's stuck, we have a problem.
And what I guess my my message is that when we are disconnected from ourselves and from each other, what effect does that have on how we vote?
I don't know the answer to that question. Of course, I'm a scientist. I have to have measurements, you know.
Yeah, I mean, for example, you probably remember this. We had this shooting in Aurora, in the Aurora Theater.
Uh-huh.
It didn't surprise me at all that the young man went in there and he shot 12 people and 70 people were injured, because in order for somebody to do that, you have to be disconnected. See, I could not go into a theater. I couldn't even pick up a gun.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't fit with who I am being.
Yeah. But you see, you know, heretofore, we've looked at somebody with an imbalanced brain, if it was sufficiently imbalanced to be diagnosed as mentally ill, we've looked at that with tremendous judgment and stigma. And so it's very, very, you know, unpopular or non-acceptable to be mentally ill. Nobody would say you wouldn't be having a cup of coffee with a friend in the morning and say, oh, by the way, you know, I'm schizophrenic. You might be having a cup of coffee and say, oh, by the way, I didn't sleep well last night. You know? Because about 50% of us, 2 weeks a month, don't sleep very well. But you wouldn't say that you're schizophrenic, and the further separated those pathways are, the more unable I am to be connected to myself and to others and to creation.
Yeah, I get that.
And so far, we've not found any kind of medication treatment to overcome that. None, zero.
Although if anybody goes to the doctor for that 10-minute visit, I'm sure they get some kind of a medication.
Right, but the medication is for the purpose of actually helping to make them less potentially harmful. I mean, antipsychotics are, for the most part, they don't solve the problem. They reduce the connections even more.
Yeah, aren't we mostly just treating all the symptoms, Lee?
Right. They try to sedate, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
It's a different way, but it's sedation.
And getting into the core of the problem is just too complicated. You can't do it in 10 minutes.
No, you can't.
I'm talking about the visit.
Yeah, I know.
When I go see my doctor.
But you could help the person start to reorganize their brain pattern. See, even if we could just see that, even if we could just accept that, it's bloody clear that the higher the evolutionary state, the more control that higher state has over the inner states, initial states. Mm-hmm. Yeah. If we could just even say, oh, gee, the cerebral cortex drives, I better take a look more at the cerebral cortex. Hello? Where are we?
Yeah.
For crying out loud.
Yeah, I have the good fortune of actually having two of my hosts go through your program. One of them actually in your office there in Arizona, and another one in Chicago, and they are raving about what you do.
Oh, good.
But before we get into, and I've noticed my own differences with them. I mean, I can see it, I can feel it, that they have changed and they continue to change. But let's talk a little bit about this 2012 thing.
Okay.
Because a lot of people are freaking out and giving themselves to fear more than ever.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you I mean, it's less than a week from now. 12/12/12, the end of the Mayan calendar, and a lot of people, have been on have been on the pedestal saying that the world is going to end. Now, I don't really want to have that conversation because I don't believe that will happen. But I mean, what's your personal feeling? How much are you connected to all of this? And what do you feel the solution is?
Well,
how
first,
people should prepare?
I'm not sure the world is going to end or is not going to end tomorrow. I don't know that.
Wow, so that's honest.
I'm not even starting to be attached to that, let alone 12/12/12, whatever. Hey, I'm just on this revolving planet for a ride. I'm not going to worry about it.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I live in the present moment. Like I'm living my present moment with you right now, and that's all there is. And then the next moment, and the next moment, and whatever happens, there are things we have no control over.
Right, exactly. But you know what is I feel compassionate for those folk because the fact is they are dealing with another sense of loss or imbalance, and it isn't just the possibility of the world ending 12/12/12. There's other things going on.
Such as?
I have no idea what those might be, but I very well could say that those patterns from a scientific point of view cannot be well balanced. If I'm heavily stressed about that, and I don't even know it to be true or not true, and even if it is true, there's nothing in the world I can do about it. Right? And if you can do something about it, by the way, I want to know you even better because that means you're God.
No, there's nothing I could do. There's nothing I could do about it. All I can do is just be as peaceful as I can be and surrender.
Yeah, I think that's, and then, isn't it? It's exciting to me when I do that on the golf course on the tee. I hit pretty good shots, and when I do it at work, and when I do it in relationship, things are good, and isn't that amazing? Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
So
maybe it's not nearly as complicated and as we sometimes purport it to be, and just maybe we just make up stuff.
for our entertainment.
Yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of people like to live on the edge, so I'm sure this satisfies those requirements.
Yeah, I guess it would.
So actually the holidays and the stress of the holidays, isn't that quite similar though?
Yes. Expectations, right?
Mm-hmm.
The world says I'm supposed to be happy, but perhaps I'm not, and therefore what's wrong with me? So it does bring a lot of stress, and to say that all of us have had wonderful experiences every holiday.
I can't say that.
Is making something up too, right?
Mm-hmm.
So because we put these expectations on ourselves and on others that aren't real. And when you don't deal with reality, gosh, it's really, really difficult to be happy.
Yeah, but I can tell you from a personal experience, Lee, when I wasn't awake and conscious yet, that the pressure, it was all self-induced. The pressure I put on myself for my ability to buy those presents and making sure that I got everybody what I thought they wanted. I mean, at one point, I ended up borrowing $5,000 from a friend of mine because at the time I was short. I went to that extent to be part of this craziness, and then when I became awake and conscious, I realized that it's not even about presents. Presents have nothing to do with it. It's about love. It's about
I know.
being with the people that we are the closest with, and embrace them and spend some quality time with them. That's what it's really about.
So you see a lot of deaths around this time of year, and you see a lot of suicides. Suicide rate goes way up.
Mm-hmm.
You see a lot of financial disasters too, because people do things that that simply aren't prudent. Borrow from, right? Like you said.
Friends. Yes. That was crazy. I would never do that again.
Yeah.
That will never happen again.
Yep. And the fact is that it's not real. But I get the biggest kick out of it. And I don't know if that means that I'm separated or not, but when I look at advertisements sometimes and how they tout you just have to have this, or your loved one just has to have that.
Mm-hmm. It's based on... You see, the media has figured out how to do this, how to appeal to the people that are not conscious and awake.
Exactly, but I see what they're using as hooks to kind of get into that specific lobe that they're trying for.
Yeah, they masters.
And
Absolute
then I
masters.
bet you I could brain pattern the people buying that specific thing and find a propensity which would have a certain imbalance, a correlation, and that's exciting.
Yeah. And hopefully you could create a CD that they could all of a sudden listen to and have it all be resolved.
Well, I think I'm working on something even more than that. I'm working on something even more than that. I'm working on a home unit for sleep, and I think that will really help a lot. That will help that decision-making process a lot.
Wow, how big of a problem is in this country the inability to sleep?
It's 50% of the population 2 weeks a month, and it's 20% of the population chronically.
Wow.
And it's thought of as a symptom of, or the basis for the disease of almost every diagnosed medical condition in the country. It's huge.
Wow. Meaning that most of these people probably don't even fall to sleep until 4 o'clock in the morning. If that.
Yeah, they fight with non-restful sleep. Correct.
Wow. Well, we are being featured on Block TV, which is a good thing because we're on the front page of Block TV. So I'm gonna monitor Block TV right now to see if anybody has any questions. But what's you mentioned the word symptoms, so I'm wondering what causes this holiday blues, and then what are the symptoms? How would anybody else know, or how would we know that we're getting into that holiday blues? And I guess one of the major things how they respond is they get depressed, right?
Yes, but I think you mentioned another very basic part of that earlier, and that is expectation. Right? You had various expectation at one time when you weren't awake.
How it should be, how Christmas should be.
Yep.
And everybody has one of those, don't they?
Yep. And that expectation is what you call a proverbial burger. You know, I mean, it's it's not good. So we need a little help with that one, don't we?
Yeah. Like, for example, I'm sure there are a lot of people that their kids are adults, like me. I mean, I have 3 kids. The youngest is, 26, and it goes up to 30. And so I'm sure a lot of people are in that situation. So what if your kids don't invite you over for Christmas? What does that mean? What do people translate that into?
Boy, I translate it into a party, because that means my kids are pretty healthy. They have a life of their own, and they'll probably, call me before, during, or after, and say, "Hey, how you doing? I love you. What'd you do for Christmas?" That's cool with me. It's wonderful, actually. Yep. So
But I would venture to say that, unlike you, a lot of people would do the opposite, which is, like you said earlier, there's something wrong with me. My kids don't love me. I'm not being included. They feel lonely, and it just goes down in a spiral, doesn't it?
But when that happens, those folk are making all that up. Right?
Yes. It's not real.
So let's say I want to figure that out, and so I go through talk therapy to see what my history was that made me have those thoughts when I just made it up anyway. I'm already lost. There's no way.
Yeah, something happened to me
I guess I shouldn't
in time and
enjoy
space,
this
right? Something happened to me in time and space when I was a kid, and then I created this story why it happened, but I didn't just make it to be true and accurate for that specific time and space. I made it up about my entire life.
I know, you're good, weren't you? That's one.
Yes.
That's great imagination.
Yes.
Yeah. And when we think about this and actually look at it like we're doing right this moment, doesn't it? It's exciting to me, because it gives me hope that we could be so much more creative as a human consciousness covering the planet than we are, if we could only look at the imagination we have about our own things, and how we can make things up, and make things up perhaps that aren't yet. Wow. Now there's an opportunity for you.
Yeah, if we can make up that kind of stuff, which doesn't really serve us, I don't think. Well, I have mixed feelings about that, but we could make up stuff that would be really good for us.
Yeah.
Yeah,
or at least really fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
We're being featured on Stickum as well, so we're being featured on 2 networks. So this is exciting. So let me, because I really believe in walking the talk, so let me share with you and with the viewers mine, what I made up when I was 5. I made up that I was a nobody out of an experience that was so painful that if I didn't make up this explanation, I felt that I probably wouldn't survive. So, and this is the error in thinking, is that I didn't only explain it to myself for that event. I then moved on with my life, seeing the world like my worldview is that I was a nobody, and I must prove to the world and to myself that I am somebody. And that's the journey I went on, and that at any cost I would prevent anybody or anything to make me feel as a nobody. Like if somebody did something or said something that pushed that button, I would go absolutely crazy.
So, explain that from scientific point of view?
Please do. I love it.
So
We got lots of people listening.
so we're functioning here, and then we have a trauma, and it could be an emotional trauma. It could be a physical trauma, but whatever it is, it's a trauma. And in order for our brains to protect us from that trauma, our brains move into an imbalanced position. If this imbalanced position is sufficiently large, if the instance that you experienced was sufficiently threatening, your brain would jump to a place where it wouldn't go back to a balance easily, because it would have the message that this imbalance kept you alive. Now, when that happened, then this imbalance is something that you needed to protect. Yes, it caused you thinking in one way that might not be helpful to you, but you had to protect the bloody thing anyway. Right?
Yes.
Because it says it kept you alive, and it's holding on to it. So come on, Steve, just tough luck.
Yeah, I mean, the pain was so much that I could hardly stand it. It's like, if it increases anymore, I'm dead. Would it be helpful to you and to the viewers if I shared it? It's not that long.
Sure.
Yeah, so here it goes. So when I was 5, my mother took me to a party, and the only people that were at the party are women. They were having tea and cookies and all those good things. And when I was 5 years old, I was much skinnier than I am today. I was also curly beach blonde, and I had definitely had some female features, and I still do today. And we were at the party, and about 20 minutes into the party, my mom grabbed my hand, took me into another room, and proceeded to dress me up as a girl. I didn't think any of it, because I trusted my mom 100%. She couldn't do anything wrong. So she dressed me up. Then she held my hand again, took me out, and showed me off to all the women. And they all were going crazy, you know, how cute, blah, 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 what a cute girl. And I was standing there, and all of a sudden, life stopped. And what I was feeling is, oh my God, my mother doesn't want me as a boy. And I know that I'm a boy, and I know that I'm not a girl. So this is the logic I made out of it to be able to survive the pain. If I'm not a boy, if I'm not a girl, if I'm not wanted as a boy, I must be a nobody. How do you like that? Yeah.
Here I am, so
And
I don't have an
survived.
answer for this imbalance.
I survived.
So I'm just going to hold on to it, by golly.
Okay. I survived. Here I am. Today, I've healed myself. I no longer live in the worldview that I am a nobody and I must at every cost become somebody. It no longer even activates me. I healed it.
I appreciate it, and I compliment you and respect it. That's a hard process.
Yeah.
But
it only took me 9 years.
I'm telling you, it took you too darn long.
Yes. Way too long.
And
I
you
agree.
spent time that you could, if you had what you have now then, back when you started that process, you would make different, you would have realized your potential differently in the world. And that was about your brain.
Yeah, I agree.
You know,
But back then, I don't know what you were doing.
Well, I was...
I'm sure you weren't doing what you're doing today.
No, I was going through a similar journey, probably for a different reason, but yeah. There was a 17-year-old that was sort of an all-American kid, and he, great grades, loved at school by the teachers, by his peers, by his parents, in his church, just sort of an all-American kid and a great athlete. And Fox News did a news video of him, and in his junior year of high school, during kickoff, he had a blow on the left temporal lobe, helmet to helmet. It knocked him down. He was concussed. And from that moment, for the next year and a half, even after a number of medical interventions and psychotherapeutic interventions, he became continually worse. And went from the all-American kid to something that was much, much different than the all-American kid.
Yeah.
We saw him, one of our offices saw him and worked with him, and in one day, he said on the news program, in one day, his whole world changed. Everything.
Wow.
And in one day, when we looked at that brain pattern, it was completely different, completely changed. And in 1 week from that time, he was practice ready for athletics, and in immediately he was the student he was the son he was the peer he was, and teachers again started to embrace him and so on. It's so great to have you back, etc. One day, because of a brain pattern. And you have a lot of viewers and listeners who have faced...
Well, right now it's over 1,000. Well over 1,000 right now.
Who face similar things that you have, and those things have gotten them stuck somehow. And they may, like you, be able, over a long period of time, to bring that pattern back. Or maybe a short period of time if it isn't too dramatic.
Right. So, I've been doing this network for 9 years now, and if you can imagine this, it's kind of similar to what you do, but I didn't do it scientifically. It's a byproduct of what I do. So I listen to more than 12,000 shows. That's all audio, and it's all positive messages. Now, I don't know how many people you know that have done that. I bet you there's not too many that listens to positive messages. I'm talking about several hours a day for 9 years.
Yep.
So the byproduct of that is what you see and feel right now.
Yeah.
I mean,
congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. But that's not the easy way. That's not the short way. Your way is the easy way and the short way. So let's talk about that, since we got all these people tuned in. How does your program work?
Well, what we do is we find out where those imbalances exist in the client's brain. And we do an assessment. We measure functional patterns and find out where the imbalances exist. Once we find those imbalances, we place sensors on the scalp where the imbalances are again, because we placed sensors there when we began the process to measure it. Mm-hmm. And this is all non-invasive, of course. We're not drilling holes into the scalp, into the skull, right? We're just placing sensors on outside the scalp with a little water-soluble paste. And we place sensors back where the imbalances are, and from those two places, we respond to the brain as it's clicking. And that response is such that it causes a resonance loop. And we're responding to not the one extreme or the other of it, but someplace in the middle, so that the brain strength or power can move towards that middle space. It's like sliding in from the outside of a slipper slide towards the middle, where, even a real heavy person and a light person might be able to halfway succeed at doing a teeter-totter, right? That's what we're doing. And that gets the brain out of a stuck pattern, and then that brain is ready for lack of a better term, for coaching. Then it has some flexibility, and then it can start looking at different aspects of things than it had before.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. So, UK Hits Radio, welcome to our network. They in Block TV right now. So I want to give you some feedback because I think this is so valuable. Just the viewers know. I mean, people are getting smarter and smarter thanks to media.
Yeah.
And people know that when I'm having an interview with someone like you will be biased towards what you do. I mean, it's natural, of course. It's your life's work. However, I want to mention to the viewers that I have 2 hosts that have done the therapy, the Dream Balance therapy that you provide and you founded. And I want to give you some feedback on Diana Todd Banks. So before she did the therapy, this is how I experienced her. I have experienced her to be very afraid, and I have a lot of fear of technology and things not going right. Consequently, a lot of things went wrong a lot of the times. Mm. Also, I have, before the therapy, I've seen her and I felt her energy. She would be, the best I can describe it to you, Lee, is she was like a deer in a headlight.
Oh.
When things went wrong, she would freeze.
Yeah.
And she's been a host on the network for a little bit over 6 months. So she has also, during her shows, she would be sometimes scattered and too afraid to manage her guest. Like she would just yield to them and let them take over the show. Mm-hmm. Does any of this make sense? How does this relate to, and I don't know how much you've talked to her or seen her previous and after results of the therapy, how does this match up to what your experience is with her?
Yeah, very well. Yeah, she was in a parasympathetic dominant mode, which means she was more in a freeze response, which means she could drive forward, but if there was any kind of conflict, especially if there was emotional context to it, she would freeze.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's perfect.
So
that's the experience.
So now, I have witnessed several of her shows after the therapy, and technically produced her shows several times, and her technology problems are gone. They don't occur. She doesn't show up. I mean, because the technology problems are gone, she's very relaxed, very open, and able to take charge, able to be present and not be distracted by all these other things that I'm sure have been going on in her mind. What's the next thing that could go wrong? Takes you out of the present moment. Right?
Yep.
So I experience her, completely different. It's a very positive, growth. And she also reported, I interviewed her a couple of times, but she reported that huge changes in her sleeping patterns. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's good news. Now the other person, that's another host, that she's a host.
Can I ask one more thing?
Yeah, sure.
From your perspective, is she happier now than she was before?
Absolutely. No doubt. No doubt in my mind.
When I'm happier, I'm doing better. I don't care if it's golf, it's work, it's my
Yeah.
love life, you name it. If I'm happier, it's better.
Yeah.
And usually a lot better.
Yeah, I definitely experienced her much happier, and you know, I don't know what was going on in her head. I'm just suspecting that she was constantly scanning what's the next thing that could go wrong, and
That's a perfect thing that you just said, because what happens is we see that scanning happen. We can see it.
Mhm.
It's in a frequency. It's in real low frequency ranges, where the brain's looking all the time like radar. Okay, but when it does that, it has difficulty in settling down on or focusing on and executing that thought. And so what you've said was exactly what we saw. She reduced those low frequencies in the front after balancing her autonomic nervous system, improving her sleep, and then those reduced, and then she found out that she wasn't what she thought and actually was a whole bunch happier.
Yeah, right on.
I like
Right
it.
on. So here's the other person. I don't know if you know her, Jamie Lerner. She
No,
lives
I
in
don't.
Chicago,
Okay.
and she did this with one of your franchisees,
Uh-huh.
and she's a part of my cast on the Living Consciously TV show, and you've been on that show before. It's a cable TV show. So what I noticed with her, okay, so she had always this tendency of not being in motion. Like, I don't know if you noticed, like, when I do shows, when I do anything, speaking, whatever, I use my hands, and you won't see me just sit there being completely motionless.
Right.
I actually had people ask me before if she was in a wheelchair, because you would never see her hands, and she was always like that and not moving. And she would also show up like she didn't really want to, like, rock the boat. Like, she knew that she was dissatisfied with what's going on the show, and she knew that she had something to say.
Contribute, yeah.
But she wouldn't say it. She would just let it go by. And what I'm noticing now after the therapy is she's in motion. I mean, you can see her hands. She's animated. She looks happier. She smiles more. She doesn't let things go by. Actually, when she hears something that she doesn't agree with, she'll jump right in. Tremendous change. And she also reported, just in a private conversation with me, that, again, her sleep has completely changed.
Right.
So there's
And
a connection.
That's telltale. Exactly.
Yeah, it's connection several times, that sleeping is a big deal.
Big
something,
deal. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, brainwave optimization is to sleep, I think, what water is to the body. It just allows that fluidity, that rhythm, symmetry to help us relax and then, auto-calibrate.
Well, isn't the body, scientifically, isn't it going through a complete maintenance program as we sleep?
Flushing and working and yep.
And if we can't do that, we're in trouble.
Yeah, we were joking. It was kind of a cocktail hour thing, and somebody was joking, and I said, well, if your husband and you want to get rid of him, all you really have to do is take naps in the daytime yourself, and then at night kind of sit awake and wait till his eyes start to flutter, and while he's sleeping, and then shake him a little bit so he doesn't get any REM sleep. And after you do that for 3 nights, he's going to be psychotic on the 4th day, so then you can have him admitted. I was joking, of course, but that's true. If we don't get REM sleep for 3 nights straight, we will likely be in some kind of a psychosis. Now, some of us experience not enough REM sleep, and that psychosis takes the form of sort of a staring off into space sometimes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's sleep deprivation. And at least 50% of the population of the United States has it at least 2 weeks a month. Scary.
Yeah. So what can we offer up, Lee, to the show is kind of coming to the end. What can you offer up to our viewers? Like, what are some of the things that you would recommend for them to prepare for this 2012 thing and the holidays? What should people be doing?
First of all, when the thought comes to mind about the end of time on 12-12-12, it's a great thing to close your eyes and breathe. And when you breathe, you wouldn't breathe necessarily. Don't worry about breathing in, but breathe out. Push from your diaphragm and push all the air out that you can. This will move your brain towards more of a relaxed state. And then you can just breathe normally, but just close your eyes for 30 seconds or a minute with that extreme exhaling, and then breathe normally, and that will help a lot. The second thing you can do is, of course, question yourself and say, what evidence do I have of this? I didn't know any Mayans myself personally.
Me either.
I don't know exactly how honest they were. Maybe they were just pulling the wool over our eyes. Oh, wait till 12-12-12. Those guys are going to get really shocked. I don't know. I've thought about that in different ways, but those are a couple of things because I think is the coolest of all. And that is, let's suppose it does end on 12-12-12. You know what? There's nothing in the world I can do about it. So I think I want to enter that space as peacefully as I possibly can.
Yeah, make love on the 11th.
Amen. Amen.
And put all your affairs in orders. When I mean affairs, people that you angry with or you have incomplete relationships, complete them.
Yeah, and wouldn't that be a fun thing to do for the holidays?
No kidding.
Yeah.
This would transform the planet if we
Yeah.
just do those things. Fantastic. Well, Lee, thank you so much. I always enjoy talking with you because it's so easy.
Oh, thank you. And it's easy to talk with you as well. So.
Yeah. So this has been an absolutely fantastic show. I hope over 1,000 people tuned in. I hope live they've got something. And if there's anything that you or I said on the show that moved, touched, and inspired anybody out there, or it will do the same once they watch it from the archives, connect with Lee. And Lee, would you give your contact information out and your website?
Sure. It's Brain State Technologies. It's Brain State Tech, BrainStatetech.com. And we're in sunny Scottsdale, Arizona. We have affiliate offices, over 200 of them in 19 countries now around the world, with over 50,000 clients.
Fantastic. Thank you again, Lee. Have a wonderful rest of the week.
And a loving holiday.
And loving holiday. And we will all wake up on the 13th.
I love it. Maybe we should just sign a pact to touch base on the 13th, Steve. Just
yeah.
One place or another.
Great. Yeah, or
okay.
we could do another show. Okay. Here we are. Now what? It did not end.
Right.
You still have to balance your brain.
Amen.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks.
See you everybody
Bye-bye.
next week. Thank you, bye.
Today's podcast is brought to you by ObesityHotline.com, the silent killer, providing support and encouragement in the prevention of this rising epidemic. Featuring the Body by Vi Challenge. Is there a quick answer to the question? Go to www.obesityhotline.com. You're listening to Real Coaching Radio TV, building a positive network.